So how do we prevent waterproofing? So I'm going to go through a list of points and then I'll talk about each one in detail as we go through. So first part is design. Specification is important, and the specification of a system has to have a full compatibility chain to prevent the waterproofing defects. Substrate's important, and I'm going to be talking about compatibility substrates and also the installation or construction of substrates. Obviously membrane application is very important, and it generally has to do with thickness and detailing. Adherence to specifications and standards is also important. Maintenance of the membrane, and I don't just mean membranes maintenance after the job's handed over, it's also during construction while there's other contractors about. And of course, finally, common sense plays a major part in waterproofing. So let's get into it. Design. So according to the standard, the membrane system has to be designed as appropriate for the intended installation, and the standard's got some information and some detailed drawings on how to design different parts of a waterproofing system. And it also talks about prevention of damage. And damage to a waterproofing system can happen from abrasion, UV exposure, plant roots, overlay materials like what you put on top of the membrane, birds and pests can have an impact, and differential movement. Oh, and moisture, including moisture coming from the negative side, which is the other side of the membrane. The other part of the design is the actual design of the building, right? So waterproofing where that column meets the wall is going to be quite a tricky detail. So the designers of the building have to think ahead of how do we make that area waterproof. And of course, designing the extent of a waterproofing membrane is also very, very important. So I've done a nice job of waterproofing the inside of that, but they haven't come across the top. So first rain, water will get into that concrete and start blowing off the internal membrane. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. The design must take movement into account, and movement can occur. That's another slide, let's go back. So the standard basically has really only a couple of clauses about movement, but what it says that the design and installation of a waterproofing membrane system shall be Class 1, Class 2 and Class 3 movement in accordance with the material standard. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that all fits together in a sec. Movement might occur from deflection before, during and after installation. It can occur through shrinkage and creep of materials, movement due to temperature variation, that's quite a big one externally obviously, movement due to moisture variation, movement at joints, movement at transitions, by which I mean your wall-floor junctions or your wall-wall junctions, and it can also, all that can happen all at once. And if you're expecting that, then you need to design for it. And you increase all the stresses on a membrane system if you stick tiles on top of them. So here's an example of some stresses on some tiles, and the waterproofing underneath that has no chance. All right. And I'll tell you what happened here. Basically they stuck tiles onto a five-day-old concrete slab. Concrete still shrinks as it cures, tiles not so much. You get that whole blow up in the middle.